Hello, hello. I hope that you can hear me. Welcome to Ivana's Noshk Live. And today we are live. I still see that no one is together with me yet. I hope that Sunday evening it is a nice time for you. If you prefer some other day, it would be better if it's not a work day because soon I'm going out from vacation and will be working or traveling by that time. So if you prefer some other time or the day, just write the comments or in the chat, those who are joining me. So if you can hear me, please write me in the chat that yes, everything is good, or like thumb up, or just some letter that I know that you hear me. And today topic is about PhD proposal writing, and then the information will be a bit different, and it's more like a communication between you and me. I don't want to repeat myself what I already told you in the video that I posted on Thursday, so please go check it if you haven't seen. And I received in the comments a couple of the questions that I want to start answering. First of all, the first question is about if you already started your PhD, can you use the same PhD research proposal as you submitted beforehand when you were applying for PhD, especially focus on the research question? So what I can say you, that after you have started your PhD, most likely you have at least one supervisor, or it could be that you have a main supervisor and you have co-supervisors, right? So if you think about that, and then when you were applying for PhD, this was your first assumption that you have never talked to a supervisor about your research questions, about your PhD research proposal. But after you have started your PhD, you actually have a supervisor to talk to. And I would recommend you, if you need, because for me, I also, when I was applying for PhD, I had the PhD research proposal that I showed you in my video that I published on Thursday. But after that, when I actually started my PhD in our Faculty of Engineering department at NTNU, we were obliged to take a 4-credit course that is outside of 30 credits mandatory for the PhDs, where we were taught what does it mean to be a PhD student, where we were taught what that kind of you don't stress out too much, how to work with your supervisor, what is research, how to ask questions about history of science also we were taught. So it's like small different things. And after that, in the end of that course, it was mandatory to submit a new document, kind of also as a PhD research proposal. And that actually you assume what you will do in the future. And what I can say to you, or in some cases, you also can have a different reasoning. It could be that faculty need to officially approve you in the system and so on. So it could be different reasons why after you started your PhD, you need to submit a PhD research proposal. I would recommend you to take the first draft that you submitted when you were applying for PhD and go to your supervisor and talk with your supervisor what was good and what was maybe what can be improved. Do you have a good research questions? Is it the topic that correct? Maybe you need to shift something. To think, do you have a 3-year or 4-year PhD? What if when you apply and you were actually thinking that it's kind of you're applying for 3 years, and then during the interview process and when you actually got the position, you had an option to select 3 or 4 years, and you said, okay, I want to help in teaching. I agree. Hello, guys. Thank you that you're coming. I started with 0 viewers, so I started just answering questions from the comment. And so I would recommend you to discuss it with your supervisor. First of all, different scientists and different professors has different opinions on what is good and not good. I'm telling you my opinion, and from my experience throughout my PhD and discussion with different PhDs in my group, in other groups, and so on. Don't forget to ask your questions in the comments, by the way. So that's why if you need to submit a PhD research proposal, you still can use the one that you wrote before, but I would recommend to revise it and to include all of these aspects that I named for you in the future. So this is kind of what I did as well. So my PhD research proposal after I received I started my PhD was a bit different from the one that I submitted beforehand, because beforehand I didn't know all the details of the project. I was kind of guessing, and that's why it was so wide. But after I started being a PhD, I had a supervisor. I could discuss more details, listen a bit more, because the professor is a wise person who most likely, especially in the very beginning, will recommend you nice things. So that's why, yeah, I would recommend you just to talk more with your supervisor and to learn to work with your supervisor, because you need to understand that PhD, first of all, in Norway, it is a job, but also, of course, it depends from which country your supervisor is. My supervisor was Norwegian. So I really appreciated the possibility. I think I still didn't go as good job as I could, but actually you don't need to expect that kind of your supervisor does a job for you. You are doing your job, and he is there as a mentor to help you out. So your success is dependent on your job and not on the job of your supervisor. So kind of remember this stuff. This is your responsibility and this is your work to do. You have a mentor, you have a supervisor to help you out with that, to answer your questions or to find. Also remember that professors, we don't know everything. And typically, if we don't know, it's a good thing just to say that I don't have proper knowledge to help you out, but I can connect you to the other person who can help you out. So, and this is normal. We are human beings and we cannot know everything, right? So, this is quite good. Again, hello, hello. I see more and more people coming. Don't forget, if you have any questions about PhD research proposal, write them in the comments. And for now, I'm answering questions that were written down below the video about PhD research proposal. And the second question that I found there, it was about PhD motivation letter. PhD motivation letter, from my experience, I also was writing that one. From my experience, it's not different at all from the any like job motivation letter that you need to write. You also need to say, so typically motivation letter starts from to whom you write it, and then where you actually heard about the position, and then you say most likely about your education, your skills, how they are connected to the position that is listed. I would recommend you also to add a couple of lines about your hobby in the end, but do not use really like these very many times published patterns or like templates in the internet, because then they will be, imagine like every single person goes on the internet and finds some template, and imagine how many percentage of those people can select the same template as you did. And then when we open these motivation letters and we see that, okay, you even cannot distinguish person from another person because they are so similar. So that's why I would recommend you just to understand that motivation letter, it is a one pager in which you need to explain what type of person you are and why you think that you will be the best choice for this position, or why you are so driven and you want to be on that position. So this is kind of the main idea of the motivation letter. The structure is more or less, it's kind of, that's what I said. First you say, try also to write in a short paragraphs, and each paragraph needs to have kind of its own topic. But I cannot even provide you like examples or so on, because it depends on the position, it depends on the person who is writing. I would recommend you to try to make it personal. So then we can see and feel that you actually spend the time, you thought through, you try to show yourself, and we see your motivation. So this is, we understand why you want this, and we do not question your willingness of being on that position. So just remember this stuff. I'm reading I'm getting first question, so that's good. About motivation letter and statement of purpose are the same. Being honest, I don't think that it's the same. As I said, that this statement of purpose, to me, it looks something kind of mix of motivation letter and a mix of the PhD research proposal. So it's something in between. It catches a small parts that typically included on the motivation letter, but at the same time, it is expected of you to provide some general information or like really like compressed PhD research proposal, really compressed. So they don't want to see that much literature review. They want to see how you see yourself doing that PhD. So what do you see for yourself? Kind of a plan, initial plan. How do you see to execute your PhD? In addition to some small part of information like from the motivation letter, which is about your previous education experience, research experience, and so on. So it's something in between. And I mentioned it in my video because I went through the anti-new positions that are available now, and I picked the first two that were there because they were so different. And not always you can see a motivation letter in the PhD. Also, it depends on the department, it depends on the professors. Some want to go and read through those documents. Some other people, they say that it's enough for them to go through the interview and understand the people. So that's why it's very dependent on the universities, departments, type of the positions, and so on. With regards to the earlier stage of pre-enrollment stage, will it be okay if I publicize my thesis of MBA as a supplementary option to keep my application more competitive? You don't need to add your thesis like a actually in some let's start over. So in some cases, you can see in some of the positions, it's written down that in some of the vacancies open, it's written down that if you have any published or unpublished work that you want to show your kind of academic ability, then you need to attach them. But in some cases, you actually don't have this. But if you have it already published somewhere else, you could add in your CV links to the places where people can find this document. So this is another way of doing. You can share you, for instance, if you have something published on the ResearchGate, you can easily provide the links to the ResearchGate in your CV and people can go and open them. Or if you have maybe your thesis published on your like in your home country university, you also can add link there. Because if the file is too large, for instance, my master thesis was over 70 pages, and I have actually two master theses, so which one should I attach, right? So that's why I would recommend to read more carefully the PhD vacancy, and if there it is listed that they expect of you to submit something, then submit. If they don't say that it is expected, then I would recommend you just to include it in your CV. So in that way, you can share this information, but you don't overkill with submitting every single document that you own. Could you please explain in detail regarding how to prepare a CV for master's program? Uh, this is, I'm sorry guys, but we talk about PhD now and not about master program. And for the master program, I need to go and check my information because I'm not sure, do you need to have a CV for master? For you to understand, I applied for master's last time, it was 8 years ago. So I cannot provide you good information now because I'm not aware of what is required as a documents now. And for those that I have seen, I don't think that I've seen a CV. So anyway, any CV for any type of job, it is kind of, you need to add information that is specifically oriented to this type of work or where you apply. So you don't need to include every single experience in your life, only those experiences that are helpful for that direction and for that application place where you apply. So this is like, keep in mind. Mm, Is it a good idea to add in my motivation letter that why I'm choosing Norway specifically as a country in addition to the motivation and interest in the job course? Um, if you feel that you want to highlight that you love Norway or like you like Norway because of some reasons, you can have one sentence on that, but not overload. So remember the purpose of your motivation letter. I would, if for instance, saying like, of course, it depends who is your professor to whom you apply, but such hobbies like skiing or like living in Norway because of the beautiful nature, hiking, like your hobbies also on. Remember that in CV, I recommended you for PhD, the same like master PhD or any other job. I would recommend you to have hobbies. And if you have like national Norwegian hobbies, that is skiing, that is hiking. It's like people here, they really love go skiing. They talk about it a lot. They watch all these competitions. They are good at it. They do it. They cannot walk, but they already can ski. And they also like hiking. They go hiking. They like to be in nature. So all of this is kind of beneficial of understanding the culture where you go. But I know that when my friend, we were master students together, but I had a 2-year scholarship and she had only 1 year scholarship in masters. So she needed to go back to Ukraine. But she loved, after like living here for a year, she loved it so much that she actually devoted the whole year. She was just applying for PhD positions in Norwegian universities, only here. And I remember in motivation letter, I was helping to read it through and kind of as external person, just to highlight things that I think that you can rephrase, like make more clear. It's much better to have short sentences that are very clear and that is like very easy to understand what you mean, and don't forget about focus. So that's why I recommend you to have like small short, like 3-4 paragraphs on the one page. In each of them you have a point that you try to show. So for instance, for PhD, what could be in motivation letter for PhD? For PhD, it is very valuable to know how to ask questions. It is valuable to be willing to do a research. What means to do a research is kind of, you need to be able to find problems and then solve the problems. You need to be kind of self-motivated, and remember that sometimes you will be only by yourself, and you need to tolerate the stress, because to go through a PhD, it's very stressful work. You need to have a technical skills for technical positions, appropriate technical skills. That is very important. For instance, now I can see that programming is becoming extremely important in many different PhD positions that kind of 5 years ago wouldn't have the programming there at all. But now when we work with data, any type of data, even like very foundation skills in programming will be valuable already. You need to be, in some cases, analytical. If it's a social sciences, you need to love, you don't need to be an engineer. In social sciences, you don't need to want to kind of make a conclusion. This is what I learned, because I thought, am I engineer or am I in social science? And then one of my professors, when I was master student, I did my project work in social science, and he said to me, you still try in the conclusion to say what is the right answer. We don't do it in social studies. You just discuss and then let a person to decide what is right and what is wrong. You just need to set arguments. So in PhD, you also need to have a good academic writing skills, good a good English language. So for me, I speak 4 languages, and I use 4 languages almost every single day here. So my English is not perfect, but when I write, I sit and focus. So I actually can clean it up, and it looks much better than when I talk. So don't think that when person talk, it's exactly the same language as when they write. And also you can have help from Grammarly or like this type of tools to make your English even better. I used it actually for my PhD thesis when I was writing, just to check errors. Let's go to the. Could you please explain how to select a good research topic so that can be supported for getting a PhD in Norway? You don't select the PhD topic to be selected in Norway. In Norway, it's typically already published PhD positions with a specific direction. And then within that direction, you need to read a description of the project or information about the position where it's already stated what they expect you to do. And then in these boundaries, you can propose something that you think is valuable. So in some cases, in the information about the position, you can have a bit more details. In some cases, it's more like vague and not clear. So then I would recommend you to contact the contact person listed. It's typically like if you scroll down, it will be listed somewhere in the below in the bottom of the position, and ask them to clarify more details that will be needed for you. Usually, I can tell you, like when I was doing when I was starting my PhD, I had an imagination that my PhD will be about one thing. So, and then I actually finished doing PhD about completely different thing, like not completely, but a different thing. So at the beginning, I was so my PhD was about polymers and additive manufacturing that work specifically, like it's very specific process that work with specific type of polymer material. And the idea of the project where I was doing my PhD is that I will be developing a material model in my PhD for this material, for this process. But after first year of reading the research, what was done previously, like in 20 years of the whole additive manufacturing field, I actually found that in most of the articles, people state that specifically this material, any aspect that they were covering, it was not helping you to have a material model that actually provided you possibility of using it in practice. And I'm not a material scientist, so then I decided, okay, then I need to use my skills and my knowledge from my previous master. And I decided to why not to use, since it's so complex problem, why not to try to use machine learning. And this is how it started, that I started using machine learning in additive manufacturing to estimate the mechanical properties and estimate the dimensional accuracy. So it just, I would recommend you typically we select the topic by reading research. So you need to read articles, what is already done, what is there in some specific field of study. And then based on what is written there as was it what is missing, this is how we select the research topic. It's like typically when even we publish articles, we state what we have done, but we still mention in the discussion and conclusion sections what is needs to be done in the future, because you never can solve any single problem just like in a year or two or three or four. You can make a one, two steps closer to the solution, but still because the world is changing all the time, the things around us are changing, so you still will need to adapt and develop further different solutions. So that's why the best recommendation would be to select a good research topic, read at least 20, 30 articles in this field, like very narrow, and then see what is missing there. If you read and you don't see, make it a bit wider. Try to think of combining one field of study with another field of study. This is also a possibility of a good like novelty, because you need to think about novelty. What is new? This is the main criteria for the PhD, to use a correct methods and to do something that is new, that is not already presented in the research. So that's why when we write the PhD research proposal, we have as a first section, you can call it background, you can call it state of the art, you can call it literature review, but the main thing is to show what is already done, kind of to shortly describe what is already present, and then at the same time to show what is not yet covered, and then focus on that part more. So this is the main purpose of actually doing this small research. It helps you a lot to understand the field of study where you apply, and actually, do you feel excited about that? Because this is what you need to feel excited about what you do. What is the required tone of proposal? Academic, formal, as the articles that you can find published. ResearchGate, I would recommend you to use. I use it myself a lot to search for articles and to talk to people, ask them questions. So ResearchGate is kind of like academic LinkedIn, I would say, probably. So the tone of the proposal needs to be official, formal, academic, like an article. Is it okay if it's written in academic form? It has to be written in academic form. The question to be looking like a research question. I would recommend you to do, when I was doing it like 6 years ago, I don't like the way, how I actually formulated my research proposal, but no one guided me by that time, so I didn't know what to do. But yeah, I would recommend you to have some main objective that is wider, and then try to formulate some research questions. Um, You can, if in the cover letter, is it okay if you make sound like regular cover letter? This is, I don't understand this part, like the last part of this question. So if you want, you can clarify the last part of your question below. Can I suggest universities providing PhD scholarships? First of all, PhD is not a scholarship. PhD is a job. It's not a study in Norway. So we don't have a PhD scholarships. We only have a job contracts for the PhD. So that's why go to jobbnorge.no. You can go on many videos where I talk about university, work, and so on. I have so many links to different universities. So all governmental Norwegian university provide you with PhDs. The easiest way to find the PhD is go jobbnorge.no, and they are all listed there. It's like mandatory. It's required. Every single Norwegian university has to publish their PhD vacancies. So it's like the easiest way to have all universities included. Just go there, and after that, you will be directed directly to the process of starting application process. So this is like recommended. Very good website. Helps to save a lot of time. In an ongoing PhD project where they already provided details about the project and the research questions, would I need to write a different research questions in the project description? This is the question. We need to take kind of 2 steps to understand it. First of all, there is typically, if there is a project and it's written a document in which you have research questions for the whole project. If you are a part of PhD in that project, it doesn't mean that you will be working on all of those research questions. You need to look in this description what is exactly written, what is expected that PhD student will focus on. So there should be some smaller topic that is specifically devoted to that PhD student, because sometimes in the projects we have a PhD student, a postdoc, or maybe it could be 2 PhDs, some master students, some bachelor students later on. Also, the professor itself does some job. So it's not expected that one person is doing the whole the whole project. So that's why most likely you will have some clarification in that project description about the PhD. So what is expected, like what is expected for the topic. If you already have ongoing PhD, it means that you have supervisor. If it's not clear for you, go and talk to your supervisor. Your supervisor knows better than me what is expected of you, for sure. It's like completely for sure. And then you will not say, but Ivana, there on YouTube said to me, do this. You need to listen to your supervisor. And I think that it could be that you need to take this topic and then provide your own research questions specific to this like small direction that is devoted to you. You don't think that when you have 3 or 4 years of PhD, it's a lot of time. No, it's not a lot of time. It's very small amount of time. And typically every single PhD that I have talked to, everyone was saying that at first we were thinking, we were imagining that we will solve all the problems that we have identified for ourselves. In the end, our research was like at first you go wide. It's expected that at first you go wide, and then you need to go really narrow. Remember, in the end of your PhD, you will go really narrow. You will know your PhD topic much better than your professor, and then it means that you have done a good job. So if your professor knows better than you in the end of your PhD your topic, it means that you didn't go deep enough. So you need to go really deep enough. So first, why kind of if you think like this T letter. So first we do a wide research what is done in the world, and then we go like we narrow down into some specific topic and we become a specialist in this specific thing. But we still need to understand the global picture around us. So this is kind of the fun part. If there is any age limit or gap allowed after master's for getting PhD admission, no, there is no. Even in Norway, I can say you even more. In Norway, typically, not always people go to PhD to bachelor's right after school. They just go and work, and then someday they decide that they want to have a better position at work, so they go and complete bachelor's. About masters is the same. They go to get masters after being working for some time. So it's not that it's becoming a bit more often now to go directly from bachelor's to master's, but still in Norway, it's like typically it's a huge gap between bachelor and master's. And PhDs, it's even like more options. Sometimes people who are working, for instance, in the manufacturing companies, and they want to have a PhD, so they actually have an industrial PhD. So after being working in that company decides, okay, we will submit the proposal to the the Norwegian Research Council, and if it gets approved, so then this person actually does industrial PhD. It means that inside this company, he does research specifically for that company in some like more generalized topic that will be useful for them to use afterwards. So then it's a bit different story, and there the requirements are different comparing to the university academic-based PhD. So in Norway, the age I've been teaching in previous year. I've been teaching two bachelors who decided to change a career. I know their age, but I think that they were at least 40, 45 plus age, like two persons in the same group. And I had a huge pleasure. It was like really cool to see this in Norway, that it's still possible that you don't end your life at 35. Because in Ukraine, if you're older than 35, it becomes a bit more challenging to find job. So in Norway, I'm amazed by this. So if you want, you even can go and get your another master at 60 or whatever, no age at all. So if you feel that you can complete it, then please go and apply. So this is the main rule. You just need to feel that you are able to complete what you have started. This is the main thing. If you get a grade C in the master in Norway, you can apply for PhD, but the possibility of you getting that position will be extremely small, if not like really, really, really small. If you want to go into PhD, I would recommend you to look at some other countries or like industrial PhD, but then you need to be an employee of the company to get an industrial PhD. So if you got C, it will be challenging. And in one of my videos, I already talked about that you can still keep being in the university if you will go into the assistant professor position. So associate professor, it's like typically it's a PhD, postdoc, and then it's associate professor or professor. If you don't have, if you have bad grades and you cannot get into PhD, and then it is assistant professor, like that direction. You can still try, but if like more than if there will be some application with the person who has a higher grade than you have, most likely you will be rejected. So just be ready that the percentage, like probability of you getting the position is extremely small. And I know one of the students in our Master for Sustainable Manufacturing, Suma, in Gjøvik, he tried for almost a year to get a PhD in Norway, and then he gave up and he applied in European country, and now I think he's on the second year of his PhD. So it wasn't that hard to get it on the in the other country. So that's why consider other European countries for that matter. How intense is the competition in the PhD admissions market in Norway? It depends on the direction, on the field of study. If you will go for computer science, it will be extreme. In medical, not so sure, but we also don't have that many positions. So typically we have like, from what I've seen in our department, it can be 15, 30, 35 persons per one position applying. So you can imagine. It's harder than to get in masters, I think. So it's quite competitive. So that's why they have a possibility of having this grade like B or higher, because when you have so many applicants, it's not a problem to select the person that suits best. Mm. How long is the duration between submitting my PhD application and getting accepted? In Norway, if you're not a resident of European region, it's not dependent on the European your residence. There is a typical process that we go through, and it also depends how many persons applied for the position. Because there is also no code who is checking all your documents after you submit it. And there is administration who is going through all of your submitted documents and checking if you have everything. There is a number of professors who are, because we have a committee when we are looking at the applicants, we have a committee who consists of different persons. Unfortunately, no code is outside of my knowledge at all. I know that they check all of the diplomas and so on, but we never have any contact with them, and I have never seen anything like how university actually talk to them. So this part I don't know, but we have typically we have a committee that consists of number of professors, 2-3 professors, administration, and then you go, like, everyone goes through the documents like CV and other submitted, like PhD research proposal, a cover letter or motivation letter. So this type of documents, and then they discuss each person, what is good, what is bad, and like what is expected in that position, what is the project about, and try to see to understand who actually suits the position and who no. And then the top 3 candidates, they are called in for the interviews, and the rest will get a rejection letter. And it also every single person, like the professor who is a contact person, needs to sit and write a rejection letter together with the administration for every single person. Meanwhile, you are called for the interview. Then 3 persons are interviewed, and after that, for instance, it could be that I think that actually every single time you will also ask the reference persons to get some feedback on those people. So the reference persons will be contacted, and it could be depends on the position or how strong candidates are, even they are on the same level, or uh, it could be only top 2 that their reference persons will be contacted, at least 1-2 reference persons contacted, and then based on this feedback, it will be made a decision who is the number 1. So that's why it may take about 3-6 months. After I applied, I was waiting 4 months for my PhD. So from my application to my PhD start, it took 4 months. So can be 3 months, depends on how many people applied, how good or strong candidates are, how your professors are busy, what is happening in the department. Have you gotten in the December or July? July is a vacation time. No one works on July in the university. We typically everyone takes vacation on on July, and in December it's a Christmas time, so it's also many people take vacation around Christmas time, and it's also exams, so people are a bit more busy. So that's why if you got in between those. So just add on this 1 month that people are out of the office hours. I have 10 years of industry experience after MBA. This gap would impact my application. It would be great. 10 years of industry, it's very much appreciated if you will go and apply for PhD in a similar direction as you experience in industry. This is like for sure. Even in your master's, it also will be quite good. In Norway, work experience outside of the university is very much appreciated because then it shows that you have a practical skills. And actually, with 10 years of work experience in industry, you can start searching a job even at regular companies and sending your open CV to specific companies, even if they don't have an open application, for instance. But this gap should be, it's not a gap. You have a 10 years work experience. It's not a gap. You need to put it in your motivation letter and you need to emphasize how much you learned and you know from this experience. Teamwork, solving some real practical issues, how to identify that there is some problem and so on, and how to react towards that. So I wouldn't call the 10 years of industry experience as a gap. It's a benefit. Will I be accepted if my MBA is from a globally reputed university within A1 region, some conference proceedings, but without GRE? What is GRE? Can you please write below? What is GRE? I'm not aware of that. So first of all, I cannot say who will be accepted or no, because you just need to apply and see what happens. Yes, it is okay if you apply again in the same university as you've been rejected. Even more, you can in the same universities are large. You have different faculties and departments. But when we talk, let's go back on the question before that. Remember, no one can tell you, even inside the university, no matter who, no one can give you 100% that you will be accepted. It depends on so many different things. First of all, it depends who are the applicants together with you. It could be, this is also we discussed with previous PhD, but now she works in the industry, my friend. We also were talking that quite often now we can have so good strong candidates that when you get a rejection, it doesn't mean that you are not suited or you are bad or something. It just means that you are not that lucky. That's all, because there are so many now strong candidates that it becomes really challenging to select, especially when you have only one position and there is like 15 persons. Even 2 persons on the same level, strong like this, it's hard to select. And typically then it's like we go with our gut feeling. So what we have like in the stomach, what we feel, and then because when you have 2 persons on the same level, how do you pick? How would you pick? So it's the same during the interview, some personal things, personality, how the connection between the professor and this person has happened. This is what can help a bit. But this is a really tricky and hard thing to do. I can say that it takes a lot of energy out of professors to go through all of that. In a PhD application where the template for the project description is provided, excluded a work plan section. Is it a must to add a work plan in writing the project description? No. If you have a PhD application where the template for the project description is provided, follow that one. Because this is what I said to you. I'm saying to you my recommendations, what I've seen, but every single university and department and professor can have their own preferences of what they want to see and how do they do a selection of the candidates. So if you are provided with the template, follow that one. Don't try to invent a wheel. So if you already have a template that is provided in your PhD vacancy, then just use it. So wouldn't recommend you to play with that a lot. You mentioned extreme competition in computer science. Could you please elaborate on how can I improve my chances in addition to excellent grades? Um, I just know that at Norway, at NTNU, at Norway, actually, Norway in general, we have in Gjøvik here the strongest computer science masters and so on. So it's like extreme competition to get into masters. And then in PhDs, typically it would be hard to get to the PhD because you will be competing with the best of the masters from computer science who finished Norwegian university. Of course, if you have excellent grades, if you have some research experience already, if you have worked in the industry, maybe you participated in some online hackathons specific to the topic, if you have participated in a voluntary maybe basis or something like that in the conferences, so try to make your CV to look really strong, so then you can overcompete other people. I would actually do focus quite a lot in computer science on the GitHub and make it strong and show that your coding skills are good, depending also to have some portfolio with different projects. I would recommend you to focus on your portfolio and to make it strong. Actually, I would recommend anyone who can do especially with programming related, like some portfolio of your projects. This would be really good, really helpful. Mm. Could you please clarify what is meant by commission provided in online application process? I don't fully understand the question, where it comes from, and is it a cut off sentence from some paragraph, or could you please clarify for me this question about what is meant by commission provided in online application process? It would help me a lot. GRE is graduate record examination, score for masters in PhD in many countries. And about the GRE and this stuff, this is what I told you, that actually not a professor, we don't work with this. And when you submit your master diplomas, your bachelor diplomas, it goes to NoCute. And NoCute is organization that is responsible for looking because they know for different countries they have a different transformation rate and so on. So you actually can send your application to NoCute even before you apply to a Norwegian PhD or master. You can just send them your documents and ask to provide what is equivalent to Norwegian education. So what is your education, how it is equivalent to Norwegian one. I know that many from Ukraine and Russia, when they do this in order to be able to work, typically I've heard that they have like, if they in Ukraine had a 6 years master, and then here it's counted as 5 years, and you need to go 1 year more in Norwegian university to have kind of complete master. So this is based on the credits and how your documents are filled in, but this is not I cannot help you with that one. I don't know how they do it, how they actually work with all of that. This is what we don't think about when we work with applications. Executive MBA without thesis be eligible for PhD? I don't think so. I think the thesis itself. So you need to understand the master in Norway master, it is 120 credits. So your education need to have 120 credits. So you needed to complete 120 credits, from which 30 credits is thesis. So this is kind of must have. Is it usually expected that a PhD student travel to the 3 different countries on the study in order to collect data? No, it's not expected. It depends on the PhD position and the project. So if in your project it was predefined, because each project, there is two different types of PhD. In one of my videos, I talked about that. One type of PhD where you actually get the funding to pay a salary for a PhD from the Norwegian Research Council, and another one directly from the university. The one that is directly from the university, there is no project description or so on. So it's very open PhD. There you work with your topic by yourself. But those that comes from the Norwegian Research Council, and those are specific projects that has received funding from the Norwegian Research Council, and that has to be followed. So if their professor has described that it is expected that PhD student will travel to 3 different countries, then you need to do that. In other PhDs, people dreaming of actually traveling to different countries to collect data or to present articles and so on. So it's not a mandatory, but I know for myself, I traveled a lot to different conferences, and it was really cool to be able to see the world, got paid for that, and to learn a lot from other people and to practice your communication skills. It was cool. So I like that part of being a PhD. Missed it a lot. GRE is not usually required in Norway and Europe in general. It is often required in USA and Canada. Thank you for help. Yeah, this is also, remember, what is required in USA, it's not the same requirements in Norway. So typically all of the requirements are written in the vacancy. So you see all of the requirements there. Don't expect anything additional. Only those things that are listed there you need to submit. In BI, yeah, in business school, yes, I also have seen that it's a bit different process. But I cannot talk about business school because it's a completely different world. So sorry, I cannot help you with business schools. I'm currently looking for university in Oslo. So two positions quite related with my research. When I develop my project proposal, is okay to contact the project head and discuss on my proposal. I wouldn't say that you need to discuss on your proposal. I would say that read your proposal one more time and find some stuff that look on the description of the position and see if you match in your proposal what is there, and if you contact person from the vacancy position, just ask some clarification questions, but do not send them your proposal and ask for the feedback. You will never get that one. So for sure, this is like professors don't have time to sit and read someone else's proposal who is about to apply. So typically, most likely you will be ignored. But if you will write very concise and clear questions, you will get an answer from the professor. So this is what you would say that I'm preparing my documents for applying for this PhD position, and I was wondering, or like I wanted to clarify if I understood correctly these points, and then those that you feel that it's ambiguous to you, or you may improve a bit better, then ask those questions. Before student apply PhD, does she need recommendation from a potential supervisor? No, it's not United States. You don't reach to the potential supervisor beforehand and so on. So you only use a contact person to clarify some information that you want that you actually need more details. Other things you will not get here because I already presented in so many videos about PhD. In Norway, we have a strict procedure that everyone is following for the PhDs. So it doesn't help just to reach a professor and ask to be a supervisor. Is it okay to change slightly on proposal? Not exactly the same as project description. Yes, I think. Do you mean like proposal after you started your PhD, or what? How do you differentiate your proposal and description? Write me answering in the comment. I saw one is for 3-year-old funding. it means that you will be only doing PhD, and another one that is for 4 years funding, it means that 25% you will be helping in teaching. This is the difference. Is publication a must thing to be eligible for PhD of any field? No, but it will give you more chances, but it's not. It's not mandatory. You even can, if you have unpublished academic work, you also can, so you actually can try sit and write if you feel like article, something academic, just to show that you know what is academic writing about, but it's not mandatory. Mandatory, it's your education, your grades in your education, and that you have education, right? What is the most important element of documenting students' application that can highly affect the approval? It is not a document. It is your experience, your skills, and your personality. So as I said, the first thing is kind of grades, that you need to have really high grades. For PhD, you need to have a good technical skills to conduct, or like not technical, but good skills to conduct a PhD of your topic or of your field. And you need to have personality. It's really hard to say, but it's not like you need to have, but your personality needs to match with the personality of the professor, because if they will be too far away, as I explained in one of my videos, imagine that your professor likes to control every single aspect of what you are doing, and you are a person who are self-motivated and don't want to be controlled, like each article, to be told each article that you need to read, then you will have a hard time of going through the PhD. I can say honestly, you will have really hard time. Sometimes people don't complete PhDs because they don't have a match with professor, and they're just going crazy mentally because it's like too much for them. And in other cases, imagine that you are a PhD student who needs to be told, or like who wants to be told each article that you need to read. And then you have a supervisor who thinks that you need to be self-motivated, and that he is there or she is there to answer some of your questions, but not like to tell you every single step. Then you also will have problems of working together. So I know it sounds like radical, but on this interview, don't forget that in the end of the interview, they also will ask you, do you have any questions? And this is the time where you also need to make sure that you are getting, not only moving to Norway, but you actually will be getting a position that will not make you crazy person afterwards, or that you will think and regret of it afterwards. So my recommendation would also to think about this aspect. For some people it's critical, for others no, but they just remember about that. While applying online, a third step in CV section after adding education work experience given to add commission. Oh, I think it's reference person letter, if I remember correctly. If it's there, you need to submit it. I would recommend you to reach to some people and ask for it. Like maybe your supervisor from your master thesis ask for giving you reference letter. Does the project description really play a huge part in getting admitted? Or is it about your skill, experience, and personality? The project description, it's about your skill of looking in the literature, being able to select them. So it shows a skill, especially if it's for 3 years PhD, it would play a role, important one, because it shows us your ability of writing academically and how you work with the literature and so on. But it's not, it depends on the competition. So if the competition is high, then this document will begin to be important, like extremely important. But if the competition is not as high, then no, then this document will not be that important. So that's why it's impossible to say like at this moment what will be for you. It depends. It depends how strongly you look without that and how strongly other applicants are. When applicants, as I explained to you, sometimes we have applicants that are on the same level. Then we really go into every small detail of every single document and try to figure out if we can see that this person needs to get this position rather than that. So then this document can play a large role. Of course, it's expected that it will be modified. When you submit your project beforehand, it's just to show your ability, how you work with the topic, how you work with the literature, what is your writing style, what do you plan? Actually, how do you see for yourself a PhD? And then the professor will see if he or she agrees with the way you see and so on. So it shows it's not like on the wordy that we have like words that we are focusing. Have you used have been or have you used, I don't know, have done, or it's like not on these small details. It's just generally to see how you work with the literature. Are you able to make research, like define some questions? What is so it's what is your plan to understand how do you plan for yourself PhD. So this is I think what the purpose. That's all. I answered on all your questions. Thank you very much for coming. Again, if you think that Sunday evening it's not the best time for such meetings in the future, please recommend me your time in the below. I think that I will make a new poll later, just to make sure that I'm selecting time that suits more of you. Thank you very much. Have a nice rest of the day and see you in the next vlog. Bye.